Hello, my name is Lilian Okibe. Welcome to my channel. Dandruff is very inconvenient, and it's even worse if you have locks, because now you have to start to think about build up. So in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to deal with dandruff, especially if you have locks. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then please keep on watching. The first thing we have to establish is, what is dandruff? To put it plainly, dandruff is basically flaky scalp, right? But there's other things that can cause flaky scalp that kind of looks like dandruff, but it's not necessarily dandruff. For example, if you have dryness, like if your scalp is extremely dry, it can also be flaky, right? But that is not actually dandruff. That's dry scalp. And what is the difference between dry scalp and dandruff? With dry scalp, if you go ahead and oil your scalp, the flakes will kind of disappear. If you go ahead and oil your scalp, or even as little as like wetting your scalp, can actually make the flakes go away. So if you have flaky scalp and you do that and it goes away, then that's not dandruff, that's dry scalp. Now another thing that can look like dandruff but it's not necessarily dandruff is when your scalp, when you have like flakes from your product. So if you're someone who uses gels or things like that, you can have that build up on your scalp, making it look like it's dandruff, but it's not necessarily dandruff. It's just like the products that have flaked up on your scalp, right? So those are two major things that can look like dandruff, but it's not necessarily dandruff. Now, dandruff is something that is very common. It's very common. It's not a big deal. However, there are several degrees of dandruff. You have the mild dandruff that most people will have. It's just like, okay, you have dandruff, which if you have like a good routine, you can actually easily put that in order, right? And then you have the one that is not so mild, and then you have the super like severe dandruff that is most likely caused by seborrheic dermatitis or some other skin issues. Another thing I want to say is, sometimes what you may think is dandruff is not necessarily dandruff. It's actually a skin condition. Like, apart from seborrheic dermatitis, which is also a skin condition, you can have several other skin conditions that can make your scalp look like you have dandruff, but you actually have a medical condition that needs to be treated. So it's very important, if you have that kind of like severe dandruff that like it's like, oh, it's such a huge thing that it seems like nothing is working, it's a good idea for you to visit your doctor, right? And I know that when we were growing up down here because I was born in the northern part of Nigeria, there's what we used to call lakpa. So like the scalp, it's just like weird dandruff. I don't know if that's what people call seborrheic dermatitis, but I know that back then it's something that is kind of contagious. And dandruff is actually not contagious. That's another thing I want to say. Dandruff is not contagious, but for this is like what we used to call it lakpa. I don't know. Let me see if I can find if there's like an English name for it. It's actually ringworm. It's actually ringworm on the scalp. So this can actually make your scalp look like really flaky and scaly. That's not dandruff. That is a skin condition, that it's a medical condition that needs to be treated. So it's important for you to kind of know the difference. But I would say that as a general rule, if you have something that is very severe, your scalp is just so flaky and itchy and all that, and you have tried everything and probably all the things I'm going to be sharing in this video and it doesn't work, it's a good idea for you to visit your doctor, because it's not every time that you have flaky scalp that is actually dandruff. So yeah, now that we have established that, let me go ahead and share some things that can help you to tackle dandruff. Especially these tips are going to work regardless whether you have locks or loose hair, whether you have afro textured hair or Caucasian hair or straight hair or whatever. But this is particularly going to be really helpful if you have locks. So let's go into that. So now, remember I said that everyone is going to have to deal with dandruff, especially like the mild kind of dandruff. For most people, there is a threshold, like there's a time period where you can go without washing your hair, and then after you go beyond that period, you're going to start to have dandruff, right? That's how it is for many people. So it's very important for you to know what this time period is for your own hair. So that's the first tip I have for you. Know like understand your hair, understand your scalp, understand how your body reacts and things like that, and create a routine that works, right? If you're someone who in about 2 weeks your scalp is already starting to get flaky, it's not wise for you to constantly every time go 5 weeks, 5 months, 6 months without washing your hair. It's not actually a good idea. Even though the fact that someone has dandruff does not automatically mean that they have bad hygiene. That's something that I actually want to establish. It doesn't automatically mean that they have bad hygiene. But for many people, there is a time period that once you go beyond that time period, you're going to start to see dandruff on your scalp. So it's very important for you to wash just before it gets to that point, or like, just when you get to that point, so that you're not always walking around with like flaky scalp. And this is very, very important if you have locks, because when you have locks, dandruff can cause buildup. These flakes on your scalp can build up in your locks, which will eventually make it difficult for your locks to look clean. Because for loose natural hair, when you finally go ahead and wash your hair, it's easy, just go ahead and wash, and most of all the flakes that have accumulated over time is going to go away. But with locks, because locks hold on to things a lot more, if you allow the dandruff to accumulate so much that you have a lot of it accumulated down the length of your locks, when you finally go ahead and wash your locks, there's a high chance that you're not going to be getting it out. So this is crucial if you have locks. The second tip I have is that you should always wash with a shampoo that helps with dandruff. Now, if you go Google it, you're going to find people's recommendation on shampoos that they like. I know that dermatologists like to recommend shampoos that have like salicylic acid in it, or like I think zinc oxide or something like that in there. But personally for me, because when I was a few years ago, like when I was much younger, particularly when I had relaxed hair, I actually used to have issues with dandruff a lot, right? I feel like I owe that partly to the fact that my scalp was always burnt whenever I had my touch up, and apart from that, even when I eventually went natural, I still had issues with dandruff because I actually did not have a routine to tackle it. But I noticed that when I actually started being intentional about my hair, and when I actually started making it like a point of duty to always wash my hair with Dudu Washing black soap, it has actually helped me a lot with like dealing with dandruff. So now I don't get dandruff as much as I used to, and I feel like I owe that a lot to Dudu Washing. So for me, Dudu Washing actually helps me to prevent or like put dandruff in at bay a little bit. So for me, when I'm talking about shampoos that actually help with dandruff, for me it's Dudu Washing. But that does not necessarily mean that Dudu Washing is going to work for everybody. So if you want, you can give it a try. But yeah, so for me, Dudu Washing black soap has actually been beneficial. I think maybe why this is the fact that it contains lime, probably. I actually feel that that's why. And I think lime is antimicrobial, antibacterial, all those anti it is really anti. So I think that's why. But for me, that's Dudu Washing black soap. But you can go ahead and try a few of the dandruff shampoos. Now I should say that when you go ahead and get a shampoo that you want to use to help with dandruff, don't just go and say, oh, because they say this is a dandruff shampoo. Start by using things that go on Google and search for nice dandruff shampoo, or you can go on like a platform like maybe Quora or Reddit, so that you can see people's like unsolicited reviews, right? And this will actually give you an idea on what is actually working for other people who have like similar issues, and you can actually give that a try to see if it works for you, and you'll most likely find something. Now I should say that no matter the kind of dandruff shampoo you use, dandruff shampoos will not completely eliminate dandruff. Remember what I said, that everyone has a time period where when they go beyond that, their hair is going to start to get flaky. So it's very important to know that, and also help with using a dandruff shampoo. The dandruff shampoo is going to help to kind of like slow down how quickly your scalp gets flaky. So that's what it does. It's not going to completely eliminate that. If you do not ever wash your hair, or if you just do not ever do anything to your hair, you will never have, it's going to treat it to a point where you are never going to have dandruff again. No, that's not how it works. But like when you find a good routine, and then you're constantly using the shampoo. It's going to help to slow down how often your scalp gets flaky, and it's going to help your scalp to look clean like longer. I don't know if that makes sense. So another thing I want to say, and I feel like this is probably going to be, some people may disagree with this, but this is actually what I think based on my experience and what I've seen, is when you're washing your locks, so like even if it's not when you're washing, stop scratching your scalp with like sharp objects, like your like sharp nails. Some people use like combs to scratch their scalp to remove the dandruff, and some people use like metal scales and things like that to scratch their scalp to remove the dandruff and all. Even though I know that this is something that is very popular and it actually feels a little bit soothing, but if you think about it, it's not actually going to be doing you good in the long run. And that is because when you scratch your scalp with things that are sharp, you stand the chance of, you know, causing injuries on your scalp, which is actually going to make things worse. Because if your scalp is already flaky and then you have injury, it's going to make it like sore and itchy, and it's just going to make things worse. And it's even going to be worse if you're someone who has the severe kind of dandruff, or like seborrheic dermatitis, right? So whenever you want to remove dandruff, if at all you want to exfoliate, let me put it that way, don't use something that is sharp. I feel like you do not underestimate the power of like your fingers, right? But even at that, like if you feel like your finger pads are not enough for you to like remove the dandruff, you can use something like maybe your knuckles, which is actually similar. I really don't recommend like using something sharp on your scalp, even if it's like violently scratching your scalp. It's going to cause injuries, which is actually going to make things worse. Your finger pads will actually get the job done, especially if it's like you're washing. Your finger pads will actually get things done. If you want to be more like severe, use your knuckles. Knuckles will actually do a very, very good job. Another thing I should say is, and I think this is another mistake many people make, is if you're trying to tackle dandruff, don't keep your scalp wet for too long. Wet scalp is not a good idea. Even if you do not have dandruff, if you're always keeping your scalp wet, you're going to be more prone to having like fungal infections and like other scalp things like that. So if you have dandruff, you're already battling with dandruff, and then you are someone who does all those practices that involves you actually keeping your scalp wet for too long, that's going to make your scalp a breeding ground for more microorganisms, which will also cause other things, other infections and things like that, which will eventually make the whole thing worse. So try as much as you can to not leave your scalp wet for too long. Whenever you wet your locks, whenever you wet your scalp, open it up and allow air to go in there and dry everything. Now, this also takes us to the next point of like using hair dryers directly on your scalp. If you're someone who has like really, really flaky scalp and your scalp is already inflamed, using direct heat on your scalp is actually going to make things worse. So use a good fan to your advantage. I feel like at this point, companies that produce standing fans should actually be promoting me because of how much I promote them. But really, you should not be using direct heat on your scalp if you're someone who already has scalp issues and your scalp is already inflamed. Because the thing is, direct heat is going to make your scalp even more inflamed, which will cause issues, right? So try as much as you can to always don't keep your scalp wet for too long. But at the same time, when you have to quickly dry your scalp, make sure that you're not using direct heat from like a blow dryer or like a hooded dryer. Use something like a fan. Even though it may not dry your scalp as quickly, but if you can get like a good fan that is really, really strong and you go as close as possible to it, it's actually going to do a decent job when it comes to how fast it dries it. But it's actually going to be more beneficial to your scalp than using direct hot heat. Another thing I should say that is going to help you with dealing with dandruff, especially if you have locks, is whenever you wash your locks thoroughly. Because if you're someone who always has flaky scalp, there's a high chance that if you're someone who washes your locks weekly, when you go to wash your locks, at the end of the week, you have some of the flakes already accumulating in your locks. So it's very important to be thorough. All these, apply shampoo on your scalp, just massage it gently and rinse it out and go about your day, will not work for someone who has dandruff issues. If you want your locks to continually look clean and shiny, doing that is not going to get the job done. You have to be thorough, focus on the length of your locks, and actually do a good job at like really washing it. Because if you do not do this, eventually after some time your scalp is going to your locks rather are going to start to look dull because of all the build-up that is happening from the flakes on your scalp. And if you're someone who you fear that, okay, maybe you watch this video years into your lock journey and your locks are already looking kind of dull and things like that, and you can see that you already have all the flakes building up in your locks, what you can do is do a thorough lock detox. I have a video on my channel where I share step by step how to do a proper lock detox to get the best result. I'll link that video up in the iCard if you're interested. I highly recommend that if you're trying to do a detox to get like the best results. That video, you find that video very helpful. And those are all the tips I have to share with you guys. I hope you guys find this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if this is your first time on my channel and you like to see more videos from me, then definitely subscribe. If you also like to know like everything I do to have my locks looking like this, how I started, how I retwist for thickness and things like that, how I wash and all of that, I share all those everything on in my online course. I'll put the link down in the description box, and if you click my name and go to my homepage, you find the link over there as well. If you also like to know the products that I use for my locks, I share all of them on my website. The link will also be in the description box and in my homepage. So thank you so much for watching. See you guys in my next video.